YouTube Oziko in the Goat House is back, ranking the top 5 players at each NFL position halfway through the season. This is just after the Ravens-Bengals Thursday Night Football game in Week 11. So up to this point, I've watched a ton of football this year, so it's based on what I've seen. Obviously, production matters, but the impact has to show on the field first. Join us for our weekly coverage. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. A lot going on there. Our sponsors, Liquid IV. They just hooked me up with a variety pack, brand new. The green screen's picking it up. Code GOAT usually is 20% off. It's 30% off now for a limited time. So get your Liquid IV. Use that code. Links pinned in the comments for that. GLE Shop, always rocking their jewelry giveaway with them. Links pinned in the comments. Let's start with the quarterback. So again, this is after that Thursday Night Football game between the Bengals and Ravens. And unfortunately, Joe Burrow got hurt and he's out for the season. And that obviously is massive on the season and unfortunate. But Lamar Jackson is at number 1 for me. He's been playing incredible in this new Todd Monken offense. It's just really about staying healthy. Had a little bit of a scare last game in that Thursday game, but looks like he's okay. Maybe he wasn't 100% through the rest of that game, but I think that having that, playing on Thursday, the mini bye could be huge. But he's been fantastic throwing the ball. His receivers, I guess, are better than the past, mainly because Zay Flowers, but they honestly haven't been great either. So Lamar's been the key to that offense and making sure it's always top notch. CJ Stroud, a rookie, is at number 2. He's been lighting it up, putting up unreal numbers, MVP like numbers. So it's crazy that a rookie is in the conversation, but he is. I think he's elevating that team. I think he's making those receivers better. These guys were, really weren't anybody special before CJ Stroud got there. Obviously, Tank Dell's a rookie, but it starts with CJ Stroud. And we thought maybe that'd be a run-first team to open up the pass, and I was very high on CJ Stroud. I thought he would be good. Not this good, but again, I thought they might need the run sometimes to open up the pass, and no, it's CJ Stroud opening up everything. So he's been fantastic. He's had some clutch wins as well. Patrick Mahomes at 3. I think Mahomes could be better. I think we expect Mahomes to be at number 1. I think he's had some hiccups here and there, including the flu game, but still makes big-time impact plays, game-winning drives, game-winning plays, with his legs a lot this year as well, extending plays. So that's where he's been even more impressive, which he did it on a bum ankle too in the playoffs and Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts at 4. He's had some turnovers, but he's been absolutely clutch as well. Big impact plays, some incredible throws down the field. Him and A.J. Brown were the top duo in football this year. And Tua started at that one spot for a bit. Kind of what's pushing him down, those big games. Especially when it comes to quarterbacks, can they play the best they possibly can play in the bright moments, in the big moments, in the big games? So maybe that's what's kind of keeping him down a little bit, but he has been up at that very top spot and just missed. Dak Prescott's been playing great recently, so he's kind of the guy just on the outside, and Joe Burrow was kind of sneaking around this area as well. The Texans game had some amazing throws, but then some turnovers as well, and then got injured last game, so it was tough. Kind of leaving him out. It's just mainly tough that he's going to be out the rest of the year because I had high hopes for the Bengals. To the running backs, so my top 5 running backs on the year. Christian McCaffrey, I think pretty obvious, comes in at number 1. Has been fantastic. Obviously, that touchdown machine broke that record. Been crazy through the air as well, but just fighting for extra yards. He was a star on the Panthers, even more of a star now on the 49ers. Raheem Mostert's been fantastic. Maybe the last time we saw him, not a ton going for him in that Chiefs game, but he's been great this year. The home run hitting back, very productive, especially finding the end zone. Travis Etienne, been very explosive. Another guy finding the end zone, catch the ball out of the backfield very, very well. Not a long list of great running backs this year. There's some obvious ones at the top, but I think it's pretty clear cut. McCaffrey's number 1. I think it's pretty clear cut. Mostert's number 2, and then you got some guys in a battle here, but Etienne, Derrick Henry's been very consistent. His offensive line's been very bad too, but he's been, being Derrick Henry. Is he, maybe he's not, because we're used to him being number 1, so maybe he's not right there, but he's still Derrick Henry. And Dave Montgomery 5, which availability is a big thing for me when it comes to these rankings. Every year I don't rank guys that have missed some games, and people kind of complain about it. And it's still a big thing for me. We're only going off of 10 or 11 games, 10 games or so. And if you missed a few games, it counts. It counts in an exercise like this. And Montgomery's missed some games, But it goes to show how talented, how good I think he's been, because he's actually, when I take that stuff very seriously, he still makes the top 5 because he's been absolutely incredible. I think if he's played every game this year, we'd probably be talking about him number 2 after McCaffrey. I think at least that, actually, probably number 2. So Montgomery's been fantastic. He has missed some games. And Gus Edwards, I'd say, is the guy that just missed, has been really been a bright spot recently, finding the end zone. There hasn't been a long list of great running back play. I mean, other running backs have been good. Jacobs has the yards. Sometimes he disappears. Sometimes he kind of gets, the average just kind of needs to get up. There's a lot of negative runs or just hits the line of scrimmage. Not all his fault, but that's maybe what's keeping him out. But those are my favorite backs so far this season. Wide receivers, I got to go A.J. Brown, number 1. He's even taken a big step up this year. He was already kind of borderline elite, and now he's really taken that step up. I think he's been the best offensive player in all of football this year, in my opinion. If there was an MVP, if I had to vote for the MVP today, I would actually choose A.J. Brown. I know it's tough not saying Lamar, but A.J. Brown's been that good. He's been that productive, but the impact he makes, crucial situations. He's the guy, get me the ball, but as long as you don't take it too far, like get to that diva stage, I love that. That's where A.J. Brown's at. Before that, where it gets too much stage, like, hey, I'm that guy. Get me the ball because I want the ball. I want it in my hands when the game's on the line. I love that. And they do that, and he wins. He wins them games. The big-time catches in the end zone, the big-time catches on 3rd down, 4th down, the impact he is making. I don't see any mistakes out of A.J. Brown either. Again, the production's there. Probably been my favorite player in football this year. Tyreek Hill, number 2. He's been fantastic as well. The production's there. The speed, obviously, is always there. The impact, he can get you any given time. He can get you any given time. He's had some mistakes kind of pop up a little bit here and there. Dropping the Eagles game. It could have been a different game. The fumble in the Chiefs game when they tried to come back. So still a star player, a great player. Maybe that's keeping him from being number 1. I think Brown's impact, the moments like how much he helps the team, I think puts him at 1. CeeDee Lamb is also another guy taking the next step. He was kind of great, not elite. Now he's in that elite conversation. He's been crazy productive, really anywhere on the field. That's what I love, like underneath, intermediate routes, down the field, making big-time catches, splashy, flashy plays. Fantastic reading zone coverage, too. Love that from CeeDee Lamb. Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 4. This guy will torch man coverage, but he's been beating everything this year. Teams trying to run more zone against the Lions, but you run man against Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's a big-time mistake here. And he's been torching teams for that. Another guy, get a screen pass, too, get him the ball downfield, been crazy. And Keenan Allen, number 5, extremely productive. He's still got it. Maybe not the fastest guy in the world. Sometimes Herbert just overthrows him. Maybe you think an overthrow by Herbert, but maybe because Allen doesn't really have that speed. But that's kind of the only thing, keeping him from being number 1, we'll say. But he's been fantastic. He's questionable for this week. I saw that before going to record. Hopefully he's okay. But he's been, he's had to carry, too, because Mike Williams was hurt pretty much right away, and Josh Palmer's been missing some games too. So Keenan Allen comes in at number 5. Just missed Stephon Diggs. I do got to shout out Brandon Ayuk as well. Ayuk's been getting crazy separation. His hands have been very good as well. The slight thing, we're talking about the greats. Like I just mentioned, 7 guys. Like a slight thing sometimes can be production, but I am looking for impact mostly. So these are the guys for wide receiver. For tight end, got to go T.J. Hawkinson at number 1, but extremely productive. But watch the guy play, especially recently. I mean, going from Kirk Cousins to Josh Dobbs, his quarterback changed. Even had Jaron Hall for a tiny bit in there. And he would have another touchdown. He got wide open for a touchdown. Hall missed him. But besides the point, having the changes at quarterback, but getting the production, finding the end zone. Seems like he makes big-time plays on 3rd down quite a bit. But the routes, the route running ability has really, really showed from T.J. Hawkinson. A big reason why, he's been the leading tight end. Mark Andrews going to be number 2, and unfortunately now he's out for the year. They're getting a second opinion, so maybe he'll come back, for the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, it's a possibility. Number 2, it's a shame that he got injured, but number 2, he's been extremely, extremely consistent. The top target for Lamar Jackson. George Kittle's been great. Number 3, we seen him beat a corner one-on-one on the outside last week, just burned by him. That was a beautiful sight to see last week against the Jags. Winning in man coverage as a tight end on the outside. It's just fantastic. So Travis Kelce at 4 has missed a little bit of time, but he's still been productive. Just one game, I guess, at the top. But been very, very productive. Obviously still doesn't some games where you expect a little bit more if we had a nitpick, so he doesn't feel like that number 1 Travis Kelce. I'm sure he'll get there by the end of the year. Number 5, I got to go with Cole Kmet. I think one of the more, maybe the most underrated tight end in football. He's a phenomenal pass catcher. Look at the quarterback situation. He hasn't had great quarterback play first, not even close to great, and then they had to switch, obviously, and they're switching back now because Fields has come back. So you got that, and he's been a fantastic pass catcher, very consistent, finding the end zone. He's very tough after the catch. They took a touchdown away from him in the Chargers game, too, where he showcased his after the catch ability. And where he's underrated is blocking. He's a fantastic blocker, especially this year has been showing out. So I think Cole Kmet's been a top 5 tight end. And just missed Sam Laporta. He has that production. Seems like the Lions do scheme him open, but he's getting open. He's making those catches. Pretty solid after the catch as well. So that's a guy that just missed the cut there. The rookie's been fantastic. Next, we got offensive tackles. Penei Sewell comes in at number 1. That Lions offense line's been great, and Sewell's been great as well. He hasn't let up a sack. In pass protection, he's been a bully in terms of run blocking. So I like Sewell at number 1. Jordan Mailata, fantastic. Maybe the best run blocking tackle in football, and a solid pass protector as well. He's getting better and better. Christian Darrisaw, when you watch him play, he looks like the best tackle in football. I mean, he both pass and run game, great. You can make a highlight tape out of him, him playing. He is, he's not missing a ton of time, but he has missed some snaps compared to this, so I do take that seriously. So he's a guy, when you watch him play, it feels like number 1, but maybe that's holding him back. Tristan Wirfs has been great. Quarterback change doesn't really matter for him, and protecting Baker Mayfield at a very high level. And 2 Eagles make the cut. Lane Johnson, I think Mailata is kind of passing them up maybe a little bit. I guess that's debatable. They're pretty close. They're splitting hairs with these guys here. And then the next guy, just missed, Bernhard Raimann, comes in just after the top 5. So the Colts offensive tackle owner Shane Steichen is really taking off, a really good fit in that system, almost seems perfect. And he was a guy that was kind of a raw prospect out of Central Michigan too. Remember, he was a tight end at one point. So he's coming along pretty nicely, Raimann, the young player for the Indianapolis Colts. We just saw 2 Eagles on that list. We're going to see him again on the interior offensive line. But number 1, I think far and away, number 1 is Joe Thuney. Has been great. The Chiefs offensive line's been great. I think it starts with Thuney. It's been starting with Thuney, but evenly good. Pass protection, run blocking. Landon Dickerson's really taken off. Really stood out to me. Which when if offensive lineman stands out consistently when I'm watching, that's a good thing. Quinn Miners as well. I mean, a bully in the run in terms of the run blocking department. Don't have to say more about that. He's great, but hasn't given up a sack. Maybe some pressures, but hasn't given up a sack there. And Russ will take some sacks sometimes too, so that's pretty good there for Miners, a young guy that's the young Division III guy that's really taken off. And then Jason Kelce has been the best of the best center for a very long time, and he hasn't lost a step. This has got to be his last year, but he hasn't lost a step. Frank Ragnow has been great. I mean, you could argue he's the best center when he's on the field, but he has missed some reps here and there. Just missed Shaq Mason of the Texans. He's been great, especially recently. Has been very, very good for the Texans, the guard. So we got a couple centers and some guards here, the interior offensive line rankings. On to the defensive side. Let's go to defense. Interior defensive line. Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy, got to be number 1. He's been a problem. He stops the run very, very well, plugging gaps, not letting guys through, but he's been getting crazy pressure as well. You wish, perfect world, you wish the sack numbers would go up. I think, he got 3 or so sacks. Plenty enough for me, but I think he's on the brink of getting those numbers to go even further up there. He's been getting crazy pressure, collapse in the pocket, something good going for the Giants. Aaron Donald still got it as well, making plays in the backfield. Being double teamed like crazy, but yeah, tackle for loss machine. Justin Matabuke from the Ravens been production machine. You thought about it going into the year. It's like, the Ravens are usually a sure thing on the defensive line, but this group is looking different. It's young, and you got a guy like Michael Pierce who's always injured in there. Like, is it going to be the same? But young guy from A&M a few years back, Matabuke, really stepping up and getting that production and being a problem in the pocket, getting after the quarterback. Aleem McNeil has really stood out to me. Every time I watch the Lions, the defense will give up some yards through the air. They'll give up some points, but every time I watch the Lions defense, and a lot of people talk about Aiden Hutchinson, he's been good. He's been productive. They've kind of schemed things up, like stunts open for him. Who's just straight up standing out the most on that defense? To me, it's Aleem McNeil. Stopping the run. Fantastic run stuffer, but he's been collapsing the pocket, causing a ruckus back there a ton. So I've been impressed. And Chris Jones didn't miss that first game, but he's still that key piece to that Chiefs defense, getting pressure and stopping the run as well. But getting a lot of interior pressure. Just missed. Ed Oliver's been impressive. He got that contract. It was somewhat questionable, but then again, you do think he's got a lot of upside. He still got that, and he's hitting that now. He's been great for the Bills. There's a lot of guys that were tough leaving off this list. Guys that just missed, Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, I can name guys all day here. Buckner's got to be up there as well. There's quite a few guys. Dalvin Tomlinson's been a great addition for the Cleveland Browns. Rookie Jalen Carter's been great. There's a lot of good interior players. I think these guys are all different, though. Lawrence is really like kind of a lockdown, like a shutdown, get the job done, interior defensive lineman, do it all. Donald, beating the double teams, getting the tackles for loss. Madubuke's been that production machine. Aleem McNeil's just really stood out to me. Really good run stuffer, and Chris Jones doing his thing. So those are my favorite interior defensive linemen on the year. In terms of edge rushers, I got to have Myles Garrett at the top. It's a pretty close battle at the top, though. I have loved Max Crosby, the impact he's made, how he's creating for that rest of that defense. That defense on paper is not really good besides Max Crosby, and they're playing better than expected. I think a lot of it is because Max Crosby, but Myles Garrett constantly getting pressure, constantly a problem, has that production to go along with it, tied in the lead for sacks for the league. Just a machine out there. But so he's coming at number one, maybe the front runner of defensive player of the year. Max Crosby right after him. TJ Watt, pretty good production as well. I think he just gets his hands on the ball quite a bit. Just an impact. He'll make this flashy game-changing play to basically help the Steelers win the game. I think Garrett and Crosby are like more involved. We're splitting hairs here. Elite players. Slightly more involved, like play to play, Garrett and Crosby, but Watt will make that like crazy game clinching play at the end a lot. Watt, that is. And then Danielle Hunter's a guy that's been fantastic and very, very productive, leading in every category. Tied with Garrett in sacks and leading in tackles for loss. Really thrived in this system. His Brian Flores defense. And he's always thriving, though, so we shouldn't say it's Brian Flores, but he's always been productive as long as he's healthy. So Hunter's been a machine in terms of the play, but production as well. Micah Parsons at 5, another impact player. I think he shows up, getting after quarterback at the right time. And then Trey Hendrickson, a guy that just missed. I think Aiden Hutchinson, another guy, has been very productive. He started the year off pretty damn hot, and he's still been pretty good. Probably, Hutchinson might be the best in for edge guys, interior rushers. They kind of almost schemed things up for him to kind of stunt inside. He's been a monster. He's probably the best at that in football. These are my favorite edge guys here. Hutchinson is an edge guy too, so don't get that confused. But it battles here. Battles for defensive player of the year. I mean, you could talk about, down to number 4, Danielle Hunter, then a production machine. You can even talk about him for that. So these are the big boys of the NFL defenses here. On to linebackers. Battle for number 1. Roquan Smith and Fred Warner, the big names, happen to be at the top. I think Roquan Smith is where that defense starts. Does not miss tackles. He's missed. There's actually been some, but very little. Compared to the rest of the guys, does not miss tackles. And, tackling machine, nothing gets by him. Solid in coverage as well. I think that stout Ravens defense starts with Roquan Smith. Fred Warner at number 2, super flashy. Maybe the best when we talk about coverage line. He does more than that as well. But coverage, he stands out a little more than Roquan. I think Roquan's been getting the job done. Miss a lot less tackles, getting the job done. Warner has actually whiffed a little more than he usually does this year, but he's been fantastic. Quincy Williams has been a man on a mission this year. He's all over the place. The range on him, maybe the most rangy linebacker in football right now. He's in the backfield a ton. Tackles for loss, racking them up. Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah for the Browns is really starting to take off as well. This guy's in the backfield a ton. Another rangy guy that's pretty athletic in coverage as well. Levante Davis, another guy, tackle for loss machine. He doesn't look like he's lost a step, making big-time plays, one-on-one plays. And then Demario Davis in the just missed categories. Back and forth to him and Levante David. For that number 5 spot. But yeah, you see some big names at 1, 2. You see some young guys really starting to take off there at 3, 4. Then you see those longtime vets at 5 and we'll say 6 with Demario Davis there. So love these linebackers. We'll say if Matt Milano never got hurt, you'd be in contention for number 1. It's night and day difference, that Bills defense with and without him. We already knew he was good, but if you wanted more proof, there you have it with a great linebacker, Matt Milano. I thought Logan Wilson's been good as well for the Bengals. Bobby Okereke really impressed me. Surprised, how how quickly he fit in a different scheme he hasn't played in. So he's been solid as well. To the corners, corners is, again, all these rankings are based off of just kind of what I see. Production does matter, but I think corners the ultimate position. When it comes to that, like I love watching corners. I played the position, not at an NFL level, but I just love watching corners. I respect, I think it's after quarterback the hardest position to play. I think a lot of time people want to base it off those numbers, like what's your completion percentage, and those things I guess do kind of matter, your pass rating. But what people don't realize is almost every single play is a different coverage. Every single corner, league wide, team by team, corners have different responsibilities. Some people talk like every single corner in the NFL is man up on this receiver, like the number one corners manned up on the best receiver. It's like rarely the case. Like when people talk like coverage, they sound kind of stupid sometimes. So I like watching what different coverages these guys play, how much man, how much zone. I like watching movement skills, in and out of your breaks, how you attack the ball. To me, from what I've watched, Marshawn Lattimore is the best corner in football. For everything I just explained, I think man coverage is harder I guess you can debate that because you got to be smart for zone. I don't think it takes that much brains for zone. No, you kind of just sit in your zone and watch the quarterback. Lattimore plays a lot of man. They'll mix in a little bit of zone, but a lot of man there. And he's as sticky as anyone in coverage. And usually those man coverage teams, they'll put their best corner on the best receiver most of the time. It's kind of rare. People talk like it's every team, every week, every game for everybody. It's not the case. But Lattimore, you will see that, and you see how smart, how sticky in coverage he is, how he gets in and out of his breaks, the athleticism, the playmaking ability. I hope he's okay because he got hurt at the end of the last game, but I think he's been the best corner in football. Denzel Ward, another team that runs a ton of man coverage, is the Cleveland Browns this year under Jim Schwartz, and I thought Denzel Ward's almost been underwhelming in past years. And we got two Ohio State Buckeyes, and they're both pretty similar. Like Lattimore was a big name for a long time, like right off the bat, and he was always good, don't get me wrong, but I think the first few years, maybe more than a few years, I think maybe he was a little overrated, I think because of his name, and I think to me he was a little underwhelming on where he could be, but then he hit it and some. He's been elite. But Ward's the same thing. Like he's been very good, but the way he gets talked about, the way he gets paid, I think he's been, in my opinion, like my standards for corners, I think he's been a little underwhelming in past years, but now he's starting to get going here. The Ohio State corners, which makes sense. It's always how it's been. Like lately, we've been getting lucky, fortunate to get to see these guys that come in and are ridiculous right away. How consistent they stay, I guess, but it's always been corners they're almost like quarterbacks, how quarterbacks used to be. They take a little bit to get going. So great examples here with the best in football right now. And Denzel Ward's been great in this Jim Schwartz defense. L'Jarius Sneed, I like the Chiefs. The Chiefs mix it up too. They'll run cover 2 and they'll run man coverage. I mean, they'll run some cover 0 where the corner's on the island. So it's a tough task for L'Jarius Sneed, who is like coming out of college as he has safety, he's a corner, and we liked him at corner. So he's been fantastic for the Chiefs and mixing up those coverage. Cover 2 is really hard to run. Pretty much every coordinator wants to run cover 2 more, but do you have the corners, more than the corners, but the corner's good and smart enough to run it, because they basically want them to run man coverage while running cover 2. They want them to stick with them as long as they can, and then leave when the safeties got a certain amount of distance where the safety can get the help, and then go back up to your flat. So Snead does a good job at that. He does a good job man coverage when he's on an island. So he's been great for the Chiefs. Deron Bland, a bit of a surprise. We knew he was a talented young guy from Fresno State. Was a really good playmaker in college. Started the year playing inside, looked pretty good doing that. Had to go outside with Trevon Diggs, one of the best corners in football. Diggs in that very, very short amount of time was looking like the best corner in football. I'd say, I'd predict we'd probably be ranking him 1 or 2 right now. But Bland has done a great job. Not just the stats. The stats help, because he's got the not only interceptions, but for touchdowns as well. But he hasn't let up much. Like usually these guys are racking up interceptions. Sometimes they give up some, but Cowboys and our team running a bit of man coverage has been very impressive. And then Jalen Johnson's really having like a re-breakout year. I think he was good right away, and then maybe he went downhill a little bit. Nothing crazy, but I thought he's been great this year. Bears run a lot of cover 2. We know that Eberflus, but they've ran a lot of cover 3 this year, and they'll have some man here and there as well. A little more than Eberflus usually has. And I thought across the board, Johnson has done a great job. Even when they're in zone, he looks like he's in man. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing because he's kind of throwing off the quarterback, the offense, and he's able to do multiple things at once. So I've been impressed with Jalen Johnson. I was happy for the Bears that they did not trade him. I'm also not a guy that's like crazy about paying corners like stupid money unless they're Marshawn Lattimore or Trevon Diggs. So the Bears do have to be careful with that. I think they will. I think it'll be fine. Then Darius Williams is another guy. And another Saint. I love the Saints secondary. Paulson Adebo is a guy that's tough to leave out. He logged 0 snaps for 2 games, obviously. So these guys are all so close. So maybe that was the slight difference. So I'd probably rank Darius Williams 6 and then Adebo 7. Adebo's been a really good playmaker, though. Darius Williams been a playmaker as well. He's been great, better than expected for the Jags. So I've been impressed with him. So some good corners. I think there's a pretty big drop-off, though, once you get to a certain point after those corners. But these are my favorite ones. I guess, is there one that's playing like elite? Yeah, I like Lattimore a lot. I think he was better earlier in the year than recently. Now he's injured. But I don't know if this is Defensive Player of the Year is kind of what I'm getting at in this category. So far. To the safeties, some good safeties this year. Jesse Bates at the top for me. One addition for the Falcons. And they got a new defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen, that's helped elevate their defense. It's definitely called differently, which is great. But talk about Jesse Bates elevating this defense. I mean, you add him, you have the ability to run man, have him, single coverage, help over the top, or 2-man under, help over the top, be a playmaker, have the range that he has. I thought he's come downhill a lot better than he has in the past as well. Not that he's been bad at that ever, but. And the Bengals have missed him a lot this year, and the Falcons have loved having him. I think he's really elevated this defense. The Falcons' defense has really got a boost this year. Again, a lot of it is Jesse Bates. I think he's the best safety in football. Javon Howland, I love his versatility. I love like you can line him up in the back end by himself, and he could showcase the athleticism with the range to be able to like get, I guess, middle of the field to sideline or sideline to sideline, and then you can put him up in the box and have him get downhill. Or he can get downhill from the back end. I just love that about him. He's been a machine all over the field. And the Dolphins' defense has been a little underwhelming. I think they're going to start picking it up. Kind of a prediction, but Holland has not been underwhelming. Antoine Winfield Jr. is that playmaker of that Bucs defense. Like they're like a boom or bust defense. Sometimes they'll give up a bit, but then they'll make that big-time play that can help them win the game, and it starts with Winfield, whether he's getting in the backfield, making a play, whether it's downfield, whether it's chasing. Remember, he chased Ritter, forced that fumble. He's just a big-time playmaker. It's a guy that can move around as well, play in the box, back end, slot, so it's been great. Kyle Hamilton, same thing. You kind of can move him around a bit. He can man up somebody. A receiver, even a tight end. He can get in the backfield, make a play. He can make an interception down the field. He's been great and a steal for the Ravens. Then Grant Delpit, I thought he was better earlier in the year than recently. Earlier in the year, he looked like the best safety in football, but that's part of this year. We're only grading off of half the season. But he's been fantastic. We knew he was like kind of a rangy, like playmaker type. Like what his knock was at LSU was tackling, but getting downhill and not being afraid to go make that play. I thought that's where he's kind of stood out, and where he's got better at. But he's been great in coverage as well, better in coverage. So he's been it's not really a shocker, but like kind of more impressive than expected. And then a shout out to Cameron Bynum, who we thought before this year, could the Vikings replace him? Is it a guy they got to replace? And he's really taken off this year. I think a lot of credit to Brian Flores in his defense, but Bynum is a rangy playmaker in the back end. Has been very, very impressive. So tough leaving him out. He's been very good. But these safeties are really showing out. I do think Jesse Bates is. Not to take anything away with the other guys, they're great, but I think Jesse Bates has easily been the best. Like it didn't hesitate on that one. And then to end it, let's talk about kickers. Harrison Butker comes in at 1, been 100% on the year, been clutch on kicks, has those deep kicks as well. Talk about clutch. Younghoe Koo has been extremely clutch. The Falcons have leaned on him for late field goals or just field goals, multiple field goals throughout the game. Brandon Aubrey's been a no-name guy that's been very impressive, very surprising. He hasn't missed a kick yet either. So he's in the cat. I think the top three are like the clear top three here. Nick Folk's been a fantastic addition for the Titans. A lot of their offense throughout parts of this year, most this year, I've been relying on him. Finally missed his last kick last game, but been great. And Greg Zuerlein pretty much the same boat. Nick 4-5, very close. And then the just miss was tough between Hopkins and Dicker. Hopkins has been a great addition for the Browns. They badly need a kicker. He has missed some kicks. In I think 4 kicks, including extra points, but has ripped the deep ones. Dicker has been efficient, very efficient. He's kicked by far the most extra points. Extra points seem to be a problem for kickers these days. By far the most extra points, and he's 27 for 27, and he only missed 1 or 2 kicks, if I'm not mistaken, from as a field goal kicker, and I think he's been pretty key for them in crucial situations. So, tough leaving out Dustin Hopkins, who's been money from deep in a big addition for the Browns. But those are my favorite kickers on the year. So there you have it. There's going to be snubs. There's going to be guys. There was guys. Probably I tried to mention more guys, but it's kind of the top of my head. There's going to be guys that I probably forgot to mention that were deserving of. There's a lot of guys deserving of top 5. You can't put 7 guys in the top 5, obviously. But this is kind of just based off, of course, production matters, but it's based off what I see. Like when I watch, who's making the most impact. So there you have it. Something we do every single year. We'll do it again at the end of the year. So really excited about that. Quarterbacks get updated constantly every week for our Twitter subscribers, and each week holds more value. So there is a lot of shifting and changing because each week will hold more value. It's more and more important throughout the year as we get closer to the playoffs. So, I love doing this video. I love doing it, kind of shouting guys out that deserve it the most. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Check out our content for week 11. It's already up. Next week, obviously, we'll have loads of week 12 content, always having these extra videos like this one. Join us on Twitter as well. Links pinned in the comments for that. Our sponsors, Liquid IV, which we have 30% off for a short time, and then GLD Shop, which is 33% off forever. Check that out, code GOAT. Check those out. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.